All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting ready for your meeting with Wonderla Holidays.
Yes, we are.
And we want you to feel completely prepared going in, right?
That's right.
So we've gone ahead and looked through their earnings call transcript, their financials, and some company overviews.
To give you all the insights you need to
Exactly.
really understand what's going on with them.
Okay. So first off, you're probably going to want to know that they secured a pretty large amount of funding recently through something's on a QIP.
That's right. They secured about 540 million INR.
Wow.
And that's through a qualified institutional placement or QIP.
Right. And that basically means that, these institutions are pretty confident in their future.
Yeah, it shows a lot of faith in where they're headed.
Yeah, definitely. Even with the challenges they've faced recently.
And they're planning to use about half of that for their new park in Chennai.
Okay.
The rest going to their Bangalore park, new projects, and, just general corporate purposes.
So speaking of challenges, revenue for Q3 of fiscal year 25 did dip just slightly.
Yeah, down by about 2% year over year.
But their Hyderabad park had its best Q3 ever.
After 8 years.
After 8 years, yeah. So
It's really
it
interesting.
really kind of shows that location.
Yeah, location-specific factors.
Specific factors are at play here.
It seems like weather was the main culprit, with Bhubaneswar and Kochi seeing lower turnout because of those cyclones
Oh, right. Those cyclones.
in a shorter summer season.
Right, and Bhubaneswar is the newest park, right?
Yes, that's right.
And that one's actually expected to break even next year at 200,000 footfalls.
Yeah, and they estimate that a mature park in that location should hit between 500 and 600,000 footfalls
Wow.
annually in 4 to 5 years.
So it's kind of just a waiting game
Yep.
for now.
It is. They're building momentum there.
Yeah, and they've also acknowledged that consumer spending is slowing down a little bit.
Yeah, which makes sense with the current economic climate.
Yeah, people are being a little bit more cautious.
Definitely, and that's impacting how they spend their discretionary income.
Right. So how are they adapting to this?
Well, one way is by pushing this digital transformation strategy.
Oh, yeah, and that's really interesting.
Yeah, they're revamping their website to make it more user-friendly and focusing more on online bookings,
And really streamlining their point-of-sale systems.
which is a smart move because it lets them lock in bookings ahead of time.
Right, and rely less on those last-minute decisions that could be influenced by the weather or other external factors.
Exactly.
And on a lighter note, they've even relaunched their mascot, Chiku,
Yeah, everyone loves a good mascot.
especially families with children.
Absolutely. It's a fun way to enhance that visitor experience.
Right, and now the Chennai park is facing a little bit of a delay.
Yeah, but they're aiming for a soft launch in December of 2025 with a full launch following shortly after.
So it's a phased approach that gives them a bit more flexibility.
Exactly. And while they're doing that, they're also looking at new locations for expansion.
Oh, wow, so they've got a lot going on.
They specifically mention Madhya Pradesh
Okay.
and are talking with a number of different state governments.
So it seems like they've got a pretty aggressive growth plan overall.
Yeah, definitely.
And they're not just building new parks, they're investing in their existing locations as well,
That's right.
which is reassuring.
Yeah, they're adding new rides and attractions at their older parks in Kochi and Bangalore to keep things fresh.
Mm. After those returning visitors.
Yeah, exactly. Keep them coming back for more.
Right, and they're extending their Bangalore resort as well.
Yes, and focusing on non-ticket revenue streams.
Like food, merchandise, resort experiences.
That's right. They saw a 12% increase there this year.
Which is really impressive.
It's smart diversifying those revenue streams so they're not solely reliant on ticket sales.
Right, because those can fluctuate.
Exactly, based on things like weather and economic conditions.
So they're juggling a lot.
They definitely are. But they're making strategic moves to address challenges.
And capitalize on opportunities.
Exactly.
They're investing in growth while also adapting to the changing consumer behavior.
And those economic realities.
Yes.
Okay, so we're back for part 2 of our deep dive into Wonderla Holidays.
That's right.
We've got a pretty good grasp now of their overall strategy and the challenges they're up against.
Exactly.
So now let's take a look at the financials
Yeah. Let's dive into the numbers.
and see what those reveal about their performance and plans for the future.
It'll help you understand their financial health and give you some really good insights to ask some insightful questions in your meeting.
Okay, so Wonderla's financial reports for the quarter that ended on December 31st, 2024, show that they had total revenue from operations of 12,150.96 lakhs.
Okay.
Now, in that same quarter, the year before, their revenue was 12,355.71 lakhs. So it's a little bit of a decrease.
Yeah, slight decrease, but we've already talked about some of those factors that are impacting revenue.
Right, like those weather disruptions.
Exactly. Those likely contributed to that dip.
And their amusement parks and resorts brought in most of that revenue.
Makes sense. That's their core business.
Right, 8,877.47 lakhs to be exact.
And it's great that they're capitalizing on that synergy between the parks and the resorts.
Oh, right, yeah.
Having both a resort stay and a park visit just makes for a more appealing and comprehensive experience for families.
Right, especially families.
Especially families, yeah.
But they are bringing in revenue from other sources too.
Right.
Like merchandise.
Food and beverage sales?
And other miscellaneous income, which totaled 3,272.49 lakhs.
And that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Diversifying those revenue streams
Right.
is always a smart strategy, especially in this industry.
Right, because it can be affected by things like seasonality.
And economic fluctuations.
Right, exactly. So revenue is only one side of the coin though, right?
Yes. Let's look at their expenses.
Okay, so their total expenses for that quarter came in at 9,912.17 lakhs.
Okay, so what does that mean for their profit?
Well, after all the number crunching, their profit before tax stands at 2,737.58 lakhs. Okay.
Which is a healthy profit,
Yeah.
but it is lower than that same quarter the previous year when it was 5,032.76 lakhs.
So their profitability has taken a little hit, but that's not really unexpected, given the investments they've been making.
Right, with Bhubaneswar being so new.
Exactly. And the upgrades to the existing parks, those require significant capital outlay.
Right.
It takes time for that to generate a return.
It's true. Sometimes you got to spend money to make money, right?
Exactly.
And it seems like Wonderla is playing the long game
Yes.
to get a clearer picture of their financial health. Let's look at the bigger picture. Their report also has data for the 9 months leading up to December 31st, 2024.
Okay.
That'll give us a broader view of their performance trends.
Okay, so what do we see there?
Well, for those 9 months, their total revenue from operations reached 36,178.89 lakhs.
Wow.
And again, their amusement parks and resorts were the top performer, bringing in 27,429.99 lakhs.
And they also had that additional revenue from the other avenues we talked about, which totaled 8,748.99 lakhs.
So it looks like that diversification is paying off.
It really does.
It's like I said, not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
It's a good way to handle those economic uncertainties.
Exactly. Now, their total expenses for that 9-month period were 27,642.90 lakhs.
Okay.
And their profit before tax came in at 9,876.33 lakhs.
Okay, that's solid, but still lower than the previous year.
Right.
So it seems like they're navigating those choppy waters, but they're staying afloat.
Right.
They're investing in growth, which might affect their short-term profitability, but they seem to be confident about it.
Right. They're betting on continued growth in the amusement park industry in India.
Which is a good bet.
Yeah, I think so too. India's got a large and youthful population, and they want entertainment.
Right. They need options like these amusement parks.
Exactly. So let's dig a little deeper into some of those financial details. Their paid-up equity share capital stands at 6,340.88 lakhs.
Okay, so that tells us about their ownership structure.
Right.
Essentially, how much capital they've raised from shareholders.
Right, and their reserves and surplus, which is their accumulated profits, is pretty impressive at 103,803.01 lakhs.
That's great.
Yeah, that means they've been consistently profitable and have been able to reinvest back into the business.
That's a good sign of their long-term sustainability.
Exactly. And now let's talk about earnings per share, or EPS. This is a big one for investors.
Yes, definitely a key metric.
For assessing a company's profitability and shareholder value.
For sure.
So for that quarter ending December 31st, 2024, Wonderla's basic EPS was 3.44 INR.
Okay.
So essentially, for every share an investor holds, the company generated a profit of 3.44 INR during that quarter.
Yeah.
Their diluted EPS, which takes into account the potential dilution from things like stock options, was just slightly lower at 3.43.
So overall, decent profitability.
But we got to look at these numbers in context, right?
Right. Always in the context of the broader market and Wonderla's past performance.
Exactly. Now, for the 9-month period, their basic EPS was 17.09 INR.
Okay.
And their diluted EPS was 17.03.
So higher profit per share over those 9 months.
Right, which is encouraging.
Very encouraging.
Now let's talk about their capital expenditures, or CapEx.
Yes, that's the money they're investing in fixed assets.
Right, like those new rides, park expansions, and resort upgrades.
The fuel for their future growth.
Right, and Wonderla has said that they're planning to spend between 400 and 500 crores in fiscal years 26 and 27.
Wow, that's a big investment.
It is, but it makes sense with their growth plans.
Yeah, and a big chunk of that is going to that new park in Chennai.
Right, which they're estimating will cost around 515 crores.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're also putting money towards adding new rides in Bangalore and upgrading that resort.
So they're committed to maintaining those existing properties while also expanding their footprint.
Exactly. And they've even broken down those park development costs for us.
Oh, right.
And they said a new park in a Tier 2 city like Bhubaneswar costs about 200 crores. And a park in a metro area like Chennai is closer to 500 crores.
The location plays a big role
Huge.
in determining those costs.
Right. And they've told us that about 60% of their capex for a new park goes towards the rides.
Okay.
And about half of their rides are manufactured in-house.
Oh, wow. That's smart.
It is, right? It lets them control costs and even generate some revenue by selling rides to other parks.
That's a potential competitive advantage right there.
Exactly. They're being strategic about how they're spending.
For sure, making calculated investments.
Meant to fuel future growth.
So they're facing some challenges, but they're also taking steps to mitigate those risks.
Right. They're diversifying their revenue streams, using new technologies, and expanding strategically.
Yeah. So what can we take away from all of this?
Well, you now have a clear picture of Wonderla's financial performance, their investment strategies, and those challenges they're actively managing.
And you're ready to ask those really insightful questions in your meeting.
Right. You've done your homework.
You've got the...
Welcome back. So we've covered a lot of ground here with Wonderla Holidays, and you're now armed with information about their strategic direction, their financials, and those challenges they face.
Yeah, you're probably starting to see that Wonderla is in a really interesting position right now.
Yeah, they're experiencing some bumps in the road, but overall, things are looking pretty positive for them in the long term.
Yeah, they're definitely not shying away from growth.
And they're making strategic investments in new park development while also still focusing on those innovations at their existing parks.
Yeah, to keep attracting those repeat visitors.
Exactly. And they're diversifying revenue streams, doubling down on digital transformation, all really smart moves in today's world.
Yeah, all of that shows they're adapting to how consumer behavior is evolving, and they're taking steps to reduce risk.
But the big question is, are these strategies enough to get them past those challenges and to reach those ambitious goals?
Right. That's a question you can really dig into during your meeting.
For sure.
You can ask them about those weather-related risks, like how are they going to handle those?
Right.
Are they thinking about designs that have more covered areas, or maybe exploring different revenue streams that aren't as affected by the weather?
And you could also ask them about dynamic pricing, as a strategy.
Oh, yeah?
They mentioned that, and it seems like a way to really make the most of their revenue based on demand and other factors.
Yeah. It would be interesting to hear how they plan to implement that so it benefits both the company and the consumer.
Absolutely. And of course, don't forget to ask about those expansion plans.
Yeah. Are they using what they learned from the Bhubaneswar launch as they plan those new locations?
Right. And how are they choosing those new spots?
So many good questions.
The more you can understand their strategic thinking, the better prepared you'll be for that meeting. And you'll be able to ask the right questions, have a more meaningful conversation.
And really make an impression.
Exactly. And that's what it's all about.
Remember, knowledge is power.
So we hope this deep dive has been helpful, and best of luck with your meeting.
Until next time.